I'd like to take roll call if we can. I'm Susan Hingle.
Tiana Roger.
Jennifer Crossley.
Molly Otto.
Juliet Hardesty.
Nikki Williamson.
Unmute. So the first, well, that was our introductions. We will do an approval of the agenda. If anybody likes to has any amendments they would like to make. Or next, I would have had it next. Do we do it the other way? Doesn't. Okay. The minutes, okay. So anybody like to make a motion?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, everybody. The agenda is approved. Now I would like to approve the minutes from last week or last couple weeks ago. I know Nikki sent them out to everybody and has brought copies if anybody would like to see them. If anybody has any comments they'd like to make or changes, yes.
The only thing I was wondering about is the term dates. I don't think there was a term date listed next to my name, but I think it's supposed to be January 1st, 2024.
Let's take a look.
Like everybody else, that's years. That was newly appointed is through 2024. So I think that's supposed to be the same thing for me.
Let me see if I can get in and see. I think you're correct, but let me just double check just to make sure. And we can also approve the minutes. But like in the motion, we can also say, we can approve it pending it gets put in your appointment too.
Right.
So we can, just to move on, like we can do that too.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes with that change?
I can motion to approve that with the change with that, my term date added in.
I'll second.
And there we have an approval of the minutes from December 22nd, correct? Yes, 50. Okay, the next line of business is commissioner updates. I'm going to start with obviously myself. Actually, I have a lot of things to talk about real quick. Well, one is I did print off the email that was sent out by Dina about everybody updating their names and their contact information. So I'll pass that around eventually or now or whenever. And then I did want, and then my big really item that we want, are two items for me that I want to talk about is the changes that were mentioned last time at the meeting about that the ordinance was changed to reduce us to 7 members. It changed a lot of the residence requirements. It got rid of the city person, the city representative from the status on the Bloomington Commission on the status of women. And that's that. So, so that makes our quorum 4, which was really part of the plan. We will talk about more of this in a minute when, after I'm done, but we had a meeting. These will be changed back to 11. So we are getting changed back to 11 because we requested that. I think I'm 100%, I'm pretty certain that the resident requirements and stuff will stay the same, that they're getting rid of those for us to make it a little bit easier for us to get people on the board. But I just want that to be known. I did print those out if anybody hasn't seen it or wants to see it in writing.
So who is they? And,
Okay, so the county commissioners, oh yeah, because you weren't here, I'm sorry.
right,
So the county commissioners on 2 days before we had our meeting, or I think it was two, the one meeting that I didn't watch them. They amended our ordinance and reduced it because they thought we were having troubles getting people on the commission. So they reduced it without about conferring with us about those changes, which they certainly can. And that they let us know. Molly Turner King showed up to our meeting to inform us because it was the day before. So she came to let us know that we actually had quorum and, those kind of things. And that Maria was actually, because when her term was up, because of the reduction in the committee and the board, she was going to lose her seat. So, and we don't want that to happen. So we're working to make that not happen. So,
okay, thanks.
yeah. And this is it, right? And if you want to see it.
Is that the edited version? So
This
it's
is
back up to
This is the
11?
edited. This is the
This.
changes they made in December.
Okay, all right. So there's another edit that's taking it back up to 11.
So, oh, yeah,
I thought that had been resolved. And she was still being able to continue with that being taken care of.
So as of 4:30 today, I was unaware of that change. I got an email today from Commissioner Thomas telling me they were working on some changes and that she should still come. I texted Maria to let her know she could come, and she was not able to pivot that fast. She is supposed to be joining us by Zoom. I don't know if she's here or not.
I'm on Zoom right now and I don't
See
see
her.
Maria on the Zoom right now.
Is there a way for us to see the Zoom on one of these screens? To share screen or something so that
Oh,
we
he's
can
doing
see? Thanks. Yep, great.
So
Okay, I'm trying to formulate some thoughts. So I'm sorry. You said that this is something that we are going to discuss next in the agenda.
yes,
Okay. Okay, I will wait until we get to that point.
so just a reminder there, and then I also want to discuss, I think I mentioned it at our last meeting about the Indiana Commission for Women has approached me. I didn't know that existed. I'm guessing Nichelle told them who I was and she contacted me. I actually took notes. That is a stretch for me. I have no idea. Her name is Jordan Teskey Harrison. She is the administrative staff on the commission. She's the only paid staff member for the Women's Commission. She has held monthly meetings, I guess, with Nichelle, and her name is Christina Isabel. She's the chair from the Michigan City Women's Commission, which I believe might be the only active women's commission outside of this one in the state of Indiana. I think she said that the Gary Commission, she's never heard from, so she wasn't sure. So that's good. But we are having monthly meetings, myself, Jordan, Christina, actually Nichelle, I think, came to the yesterday meeting. I actually didn't get to make the meeting because it's during my work hour and it's not a big deal for me to come, but I just got taken away at the time. Anyway, the meeting for me, she's also introduced me to the ACL representatives because they've never had really a working relationship with the ACLU, with Katie Blair and Caitlin T, and just to connect us to see more things. Jordan seemed very interested, obviously, in keeping our relationship. She told me all the ways that she could help us, all the information. Honestly, it was a little overwhelming because it was just, I mean, it's a lot to learn from her. But I think one of her things that she offered, which was so exciting for me and so silly at the same time, is I was talking about money. So they have money that we could possibly get for us. Whether she was like, I was like, hey, could you buy us name tags? We really want, and so they could buy us name tags. They could help us. We talked about funding like a retreat last time. They could possibly potentially help us with a retreat costs. They could, all this kind of thing. So that's a really nice thing. She just essentially told me to make sure, to let her know what we needed and that she would try to make it happen. So that's a really great thing to have that connection. She seemed very great to work in. They're housed, it's really interesting because they are housed with status, I think Black males and the Indigenous people, and they're under the Civil Rights Commission or something. It's a really interesting housing of the way they are, but just so you know, they are, I will update you guys. I mean, I've told you guys from the beginning, I'm not interested in gatekeeping information. I will definitely send you guys all the link or put it in the minutes for the next time so we can, if you guys are interested in coming to our meeting, you're certainly more than welcome to come to even, especially because it's, on Zoom or whatever, it's easier to eavesdrop in the daytime or whatever. So, I think it's really it because we all are going to have different ideas.
Can you clarify for me the names of the people again?
So
And yeah,
Jordan Teskey,
right. I have Jordan.
Harrison,
Mhm.
and Christina, Kristina, Isabel. She's the chair from the Michigan City Women's Commission.
Okay. And then there was the Katie.
And then there's Katie Blair and Caitlin Teague from the ACLU.
They're both from the ACLU.
Correct.
Thank you.
And I was gonna say, just for the record, Maria Douglas is on.
As Rachel.
Yes, she is Rachel. So I just asked TSD to promote her, just so she can participate as well.
Does anybody have any questions or comments about that at all? I was really excited by it.
Mhm.
She seems really excited. Yeah.
Sounds really promising.
So
That was good. They just glad to have that connection.
Mhm.
yeah, she was talking about today, or she sent me after, I apologize for, of course, missing the meeting. She sent me an email saying, telling me what they talked about. So, I mean, they focused on, how we can collaborate, bring awareness to the Women's Commission, how to serve, how to advocate, how to organize, spring up all, work on getting more women's commissions involved, or like established, or coming up with the idea to contact the Indiana Conference for Women to see if Women's Commission can lead a breakout session in their 2023 conference about having an all women's commission retreat together, those kind of things. So hi, Maria. Okay. Any other questions? I definitely will keep you guys informed. And as I said, I will put her contact information in the web link for the meeting in our minutes as well.
So we're planning a retreat?
They said that it's just something they're talking about, because it was just something too that when she and I were talking, that, we were just talking about, I was talking to her about our retreat that we had discussed, and she was like, I would love to have a statewide,
Mhm.
because you're talking like
Yeah.
20 people probably,
Mhm.
but a statewide retreat on, getting people together and, whatever. So,
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I love the idea of helping broaden women's commissions to other counties as well.
Mhm.
It's a little shocking to me to hear that there's only
3,
two, maybe three.
Yeah.
And out of 92, like, oh, that immediately makes me think of our discussion last time about roles and legacy. That, yeah, I think that's interesting to me.
well, and it's, yeah, and it's interesting because, I mean, we're all volunteers. So how, like, coming up with the time and the energy, but I think that's one of the things with someone like Jordan, who's a paid staff person, can help keep us on task and figure out how to, and then, she has all the connection to the people. I mean, if you look at who's on her board, it's all the state senators and house, the representatives and things. So she's, Shelley Yoder's on the board. So that's good. But, so I hope that happens. That would be great. Anything? Great. Okay, so the next I have Maria and Nikki. So we had met, I think Maria had sent out, I'd sent out a text last week. We were had been talking about going to office hours because we were a little confused and about why the ordinance got changed, especially without our knowledge. So we figured going to office hours was a good way to handle that.
And before you go forward, I just want to say for the record, I was under the impression as the liaison from the county council, I was under the impression that you all were told that this happened, considering that the commissioners had their meeting Wednesday and this meeting happened the very next day. Of course, with Thursdays, I wasn't able to attend. So I was under the impression that this is something that was discussed. So my apologies for my end, because I figured staff that attended the meeting, the previous Women's Commission meeting had discussed this with everybody. So I apologize if that was my error. I did not think that, yes. So I will say I'm disappointed in that aspect. And I was also disappointed in the fact that Commissioner Douglas did not know what was going on until we had the conversation. So my intentions for the new year, and I think it's the sentiment for the rest of our commission here, is to make sure that we are having full transparency with this commission, which involves open communication, dialogue, things of that sort that will continue to happen. I also hope that, because I know you had mentioned that we were going to discuss it here in this point, I am surprised to hear that you got an email from Commissioner Thomas. I have not received any of this. So today is the first time that I'm hearing that it's now going back to 11. So the moral of the story is there's communication breakdown that is happening. And I really hope for this commission, because we are some very powerful women on this commission, and our missions and goals and objectives is to do some really great work. But it seems to be that it is very hindered through communication. Maybe I am also a part of that. I will own up to that as well. But moving forward, my intention for 23 as the liaison, if I continue to be on, because we all will get new appointments here very shortly, is that it will be better for the new year. So I'm looking forward to hearing about the office hours meet. And then I also would like to hear a little bit more in detail of how this ordinance is supposed to happen, or the amendment to the ordinance is supposed to happen, because yeah, as it stands, technically, because they amended it back in December, we're still operating on 7. So there's questions that I have. So I just wanted to go on record to say that.
Would,
Thank you.
would this, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Would this be, would you like me to start with the email that I got from Commissioner Thomas, or should we wait till we have a discussion?
Yeah, why don't we have the discussion of
How this happened?
exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm glad Maria's here via Zoom and that, so Maria, Nikki and I hopped onto office hours. We had no idea. I didn't know. I don't think we knew who we were going to get. And we happened to get Julie Thomas, which Commissioner Thomas, so I was really excited because I know she has been involved with the commission in the beginning or pretty close to the beginning. And we went to talk to her pretty much about just a lot of things, but, certainly about being frustrated that this happened without our knowledge. So I'm gonna let Maria and Nikki talk about it, give a synopsis, I think, of what happened, so I don't have to talk the whole time.
Maria, do you want to go or would you like me to? Oh, I can't hear you.
We can't hear you, but you're unmuted.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay, thank you so much for your patience. So it came to my attention that with the reduction of the commission, which again, as Susan said, was just, in our opinion, sprung on us in the meeting in December, that my seat was going to roll off. And please know, this is not about Maria having a seat. It's about this commission having enough members to do the work that they need to do, having the diversity that they need to be inclusive. Also, to the point of what Jennifer was saying, to encourage, communication and transparency. So we felt this needed to be addressed and we hopped on, the office hours, thank God, that same day, that same evening. And Julie was under the impression that this is something that we wanted. And so we made, whereas at one point in time, probably in the summer, we were having issues getting quorum. But we have been, as clearly, Tiana sent her husband, we've been working very hard, to recruit and to get quorum. So we weren't making any more noise, if you will, about quorum because we had felt like we had it under control. And with so much interest from other people wanting to get involved with the commission, we were like, oh, we're good. We just have to get these applications in and get it pushed through the system, and we will not have trouble because we have handful at least females are interested in joining. So Julie, again, to Jennifer's point, Julie said that she was unaware, that we were able to make quorum with 11. She understood our confusion and frustration over not being told or having the opportunity to discuss it. And she was extremely apologetic and owned that that was a unfortunate lack of communication between the commissioners and the Women's Commission. She is in support of us going back to 11. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say about that. Unless I forgot something.
Yeah, I think that's good. I'll add a couple things. So that was the basic purpose of our attending. And I think I can speak for us that we were pleased with Commissioner Thomas's communication and ability to hear our concerns and validate them, and offer apology as well, which I think was important because we felt pretty stepped on. In addition, we talked a lot about the work that we are trying to do and have been working really hard at getting us together and get on the same page and understand the ordinances and the various expectations of this commission during a transition as well in terms of leadership. And she was supportive of that, and I think heard our intention that we would be very communicative with them and expected the same in return. And we shared that we planned on having a representative from our commission at their commission meetings weekly, as much as we are able to, just to keep up in the know, answer questions, and then be able to report out to ourselves. And then finally, I would say that she also offered support in terms of helping us understand the various aspects to being on a commission like this, as well as offering support in terms of helping us with a retreat and connections in the community. Yeah, and I think the plan at the end was that she was going to check in with the rest of kind of the commissioners, ask for an amendment, and then talked about the ability to reinstate Maria as a commissioner in January, if Commissioner Douglas was interested in that.
And Molly,
So-
and Molly, because her term was up as well.
Right, and
Commissioner Otto.
we included that as well. That's why I was confused when I heard from you, because it's a little different.
And I honestly, I don't know who I received a phone call from, because I was in the middle of my workday, but I was like, yeah, of course I do. And they said, okay, great. And then I've been on the emails, so.
I guess for clarification, if this gets amended back to going back to 11, technically Maria is a council appointment. And so because technically it did end, like council would need to reappoint her. So okay, so yeah, so, and of course, I don't think that we would have an issue with doing that. Of course, I can't speak for all the rest of us. But I mean, she did get approved like unanimously. So I don't see that we would have a problem with that. I guess my question, since this is something that I'm learning this evening, is do we know when the timeline is for this ordinance to go?
That's why I was getting ready to say I was disappointed that the commissioners meeting was canceled yesterday, because I was under the assumption that it was going to be discussed and then voted on. No.
No, I mean, after we were scrambling yesterday to try to get onto the meeting, I remembered her saying they were not meeting again until the 11th.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I think I
have that in my notes too, now that you say that, yeah.
I
they're
just seen
meeting
it
the
afterwards. I
11th.
was like, oh yeah, they weren't going to be here. So
Okay, good. I just disappointed myself. It's fine.
So if we move to 11, how many people need to be present for quorum?
6.
6. Okay, good. Just making sure.
So
Just to clarify, so tonight, we're working under the auspice of 6 or 7.
4.
Right, 4 for quorum, but
Yeah,
the reduced number, right? And then in January, well, it is January now, thank you. They'll be amending it back, and then it'll shift again, presumably by next month's meeting. Does that make sense?
And I will hold myself to, and I'll put a note in, and I will get with Miss Molly Turner King to figure out when we will be doing this so that we can get ourselves prepped and ready for next month's meeting. And of course, I think the issue with quorum that we were having is because we were trying to get people to be here, like we got Julie and, and Molly, and of course Maria. So I think that was the issue with quorum, is like we could never do it because we didn't have people. And I also think that the commissioners also have an appointment that they need to make as well that has been outstanding for a while. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the more the merrier. If we have people that really want to be here and are dedicated, and it seems like this is a group of women that are wanting to do this work, then I'm in support of it going back to 11, but I also want to know when these things will be happening so we can just get ourselves as prepped as much as possible.
So I do have a couple comments to add on to what we talked about with Commissioner Thomas, was that, so basic housekeeping things, because a lot of, my concerns as, the new chair of this commission too, and that everybody on here is new. And, with Michelle leaving, that everybody joined essentially last year. No one knows a whole lot of what's going on. So just trying to get, our feet under us. And so she just gave us a whole bunch of tidbits, like we were talking about the retreat. And she said, well, you can have a working session and you can do that anywhere. And I would love to be there and make sure that, because I said, we really want to figure out how, we meet 12 times, in a year. That's not a lot of time to get work done. So trying to figure out, how we can make the most of our commission, and how, coming up with realistic goals we can't really do here. It's not, it's not enough time. It's not enough people. It's not a lot of things. And so she, just help us define what that meant, how we could do that, making sure, letting her know. So she, coming here, we had also discussed about having this meeting on the first Thursday of the month, which she gave us information that is not the information that I had, which was, she said we could have this meeting whenever we want. And I was like, well, that's not the options that we were given. We were given only certain options. That's what we were told. So there was some very conflicting information there as well. So I don't know. And the reason why and I said it originally in the email, was that I don't like having this meeting on the first Thursday because it's the same time as the status of women meet for the city. And so it makes it very hard for two parties, hopefully working towards the same goal, to ever collaborate when you're meeting at the same time. So, and we discussed changing that. And so she was letting us know that we could do whatever we wanted to do. And, as long as we gave enough notice that we are changing and publish the dates or whatever those things are. So I don't know. Is there any other little housekeeping thing that you remember that she talked about? But things like that, those things. So it was really interesting.
Do we have details like how much notice we have to give if we're going to be changing meeting times or anything?
I think it's 72 hours.
Oh, it's okay.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So Jennifer, how are things communicated to council? Like, was that on us that we should have communicated to you that what was going on, or is it between the commissioners and the and the council?
I think it's all of the above. So it's a lot. So a representative from the county, whoever is at these meetings, whether it's myself or Molly, or even a commissioner for that matter, because I believe they too are also somebody that should be here in these meetings.
Yes.
Somebody from the county should be in the communication factor of getting information like and then basically getting it out to you all, and then vice versa. So both county and commissioners, Women's Commission, should be communicative back and forth. So that's where I think it is being broken down, is because it seems to be there's a lot of, if there's not a representative that's here, or if there is a representative that is here, that person should be communicating with people that are not here to go for it. And so I think, again, if I continue to stay on, the goal that I would like to do is communication is the key to my heart. And I say that in my public and private life and professional life. But I also use that in my here as well, is that I feel like even when we have our meetings here today, whatever is discussed and whoever is not here, I think it should be in a good practice for us to follow up with emails. So even if those that are here, we missed something because of, us having a different attention to whatever the case is, I think that is the principle that we should be going with and moving forward, is making sure that we are all on the same page, which is why the meeting notes also help as well too. But again, making sure that those are going out to people and people are paying attention to those. And they're also going out in a timely fashion too. So I, again, to answer the question, I think it's all of the above. But, and again, I'll own up to it. I know that I haven't been able to meet on third Thursdays because I've just had conflicts from the very beginning. And so it was never really a good thing for me. But moving forward, and to kind of go back to that, I think the reason why Thursdays were brought back up is because it seemed like, and reading from some of the email exchanges, that maybe Thursday might have been the better day for people. Maybe, I don't know. And I think that's where that communication came in, is that, well, third Thursday just didn't work. So how about other Thursdays? So I think that's where that was.
No, she gave us other, I mean, there were other options.
When we did a doodle poll. didn't
Yeah.
we do
Yeah,
a
but it
poll?
wasn't like every day. It was like the
Yeah.
first Monday or the second Tuesday or the, you know what I mean? It wasn't like, it
Yeah.
was, you have these like 5 days to choose from.
So I think one of the things that we could do going forward is, once the ordinance has been amended back to 11, I think we should probably go ahead and revisit the doodle poll again to make sure, because if it does include now the original, which is the liaison from the city's commission, then obviously if they're meeting at the same time that we're meeting, then it's probably not a good idea for us to meet the same time that they're meeting, or else the change is kind of pointless.
Well, and when I mentioned that in the email, I was not given a very
Yeah.
nice reply.
So I think so again, I think that what we should do is, my recommendation would be that we just wait and see. We'll follow up, figure out when, because technically commissioners have to have so many hours of an agenda, like items to be put on the agenda as a notice. Because you have to notice like what's going to be discussed. And so we can see if that's a topic that will be on the agenda for them for next week. And if it's not, then unfortunately we have to wait for another week to figure out. But obviously, once they do make the appointment or make the change, it should be immediate, and then we can go back and then we can start over again and have like a poll for us to figure out how we can meet all over again.
Yeah, I think that you're right. It was a little bit of everything. And I think it'll be better, way better, when the commissioners have their liaison at the meeting. And because this whole thing happened without anyone's knowledge except for the commissioner's knowledge, and so it wasn't even discussed in the meeting, right, in the Women's Commission meeting. So once we have, hopefully it'll stay you if you want it to be, and then the commissioners will send their liaison, and hopefully that would go a long way for everyone to being on the same page. But just so we're all clear, it sounds to me like it's almost a 3-step process. 1, they have to change, the commissioners has to change the ordinance. 2, I kind of have to reapply with the council, and then the council will have to appoint me again. So it may be a minute before I can vote, but I'll still come to the meetings, right?
So this is my time to read you. Is that okay? Can I read this email? Briefly?
I would give a synopsis of it.
Okay, so it just says that so this is after our meeting with Commissioner Thomas, she asked us to email her, right? Her addresses. So I emailed her address. I just got this message at 1:00 today saying, I'm glad you reached out. They are working through a revision of the ordinance as they discussed. But she just learned that we were meeting tonight. So if Maria can attend, she should. We will get this straightened out. As of this moment, I believe we'll have 4 commissioners appointments, 3 council, and we'll make the counselor and commissioner ex officio. So the quorum will still be 4. Wait, that's not right. I don't know. But
Well,
Yes, sir.
that's the problem that we're having. I'm just going to front it out. I feel like that's the problem that we're having. Commissioners and council, county or city, are supposed to work together, right? But if they're doing this ordinance, changing this ordinance behind the scenes outside of a session, and city council doesn't know about it, and I'm city council's appointee.
not city council, county council.
Or I mean, county council, county council's appointee, that's a problem. The county council doesn't know what's happening with their appointee.
That is correct.
That's the
'cause-
point. Yes,
That's correct, because as of this moment is when I'm finding out all of this.
yes, that's a problem. So whereas, I mean, I'm just gonna say, whereas we appreciate the commissioners' support and whatnot, I feel like as a women's commission can't condone, participate in things that are done off record or done out of, what's the word I'm looking for? Out of, the steps, the process, out of process. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. And with the open door policy, we really shouldn't be doing that either. It's your violation.
I just wanted to make sure that we were all, because I think we all are very different individuals, but I think we all are wanting to do the right thing. And so I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, because it is a whole situation. It's a whole process.
So, did you have something you wanted to say? Oh, no. Something else outside of this? Well,
Sorry, so there's, if the county commissioners are taking this up at their January 11th meeting, that means there is yet another amendment to our ordinance that is going to be changing things. Is the county council going to know anything about this before that meeting or no?
They will now.
Okay.
I'll make sure.
well, and so we also had a discussion, I think, was it with Commissioner Thomas? I can't remember, about that if we were going back up to 11, because we were still short seats. So that was one of the things, is making sure we had lots of people apply. Allegedly, I have 2 people that are applying. And not that we would still have quorum, but still to fill up the seats, because we are all very ambitious people. I know it. And we want things to get done. And although we are small and mighty, it would still be nice to have more people at the table. So, and we had talked about in the meeting too, I think with Commissioner Thomas, that, that was our agenda, was to make sure that we were as inclusive as possible, or maybe we talked about that as our last meeting, but we were gonna do our best to get our board full first. And then, as people came on and off, to even, not that we weren't thinking about diversity when we're recruiting, but we'll see what happens. So just to put that out there, because I know that's all very important to us too. So
We're gonna get it right. We're gonna get it right. This is a bump, there's a hiccup, this, lack of a better word, it sucks, but we will, it's the first of the year. We got 11 more months left. Sounds very weird. But we'll make it work. We'll make it work. We'll get it right. Positive vibes.
Yeah, I agree. So I think we're all on the same page in terms of the importance of that crystal clear communication. Yeah, I really appreciated you pointing that out, because that is the discussion that we had as well. Just for clarification on communication, regarding the commission's minutes, as the secretary, I'm under the understanding that I am to disseminate the minutes, like from tonight's meeting, I'll disseminate them to our commission, but until we approve them at the next meeting, that is when I actually send them out. So for me, I'm like, then everybody's always getting those a month behind. So that seems problematic to me. I don't know if there's a workaround or if maybe I misunderstood that.
I will put that on my list to follow up.
So the next line of business was, I put it on here for the Bloomington Commission for the status on women as updates. I don't believe we really have any, but I just wanted to make sure that was constantly on our minds, as well as vacancies for our chairs, making sure we're still recruiting. I'd rather them be turning people away than, doing whatever. Yeah, I don't know if that went in my head. Okay, so let's go on to new business. And actually, let me ask before I do that. So I forgot afterwards, we need to put on here as standard is girls coding camp, to be working on that every month. I forgot to put it on here. It came to me too late. So I would like to keep us with that. Okay, new business. We had talked about doing a retreat. There's no money for a retreat that we know of unless I get money. However, I mean, one of our issues with this is here we've spent, our first meeting of 2023 talking about housekeeping, which I feel like we shouldn't have had to talk about, but it's fine. I would like to talk about, Commissioner Thomas suggested, since a retreat would be hard to do because there's no money, would be a working session. I do think something that we can do quickly and efficiently to get us all on the same page as quick as possible, since I do have this pressure all the time of, there were constraints that we have, as a government body, to adhering to certain rules. Really, it ties our hands, I feel like, in a lot of ways, which is fine. That's the way it should be that way. But I want to know how we feel about a working session. And to me, I'm going to define it first. And that is 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours on whenever we can figure it out, the best day. Commissioner Thomas said we can have it wherever we want, as long as it's publicly If, as long as we let people know where it is and then they could attend if they wanted to. It doesn't have to be broadcast, so, just so you know, right? I think that was what she said, right? So, how do we feel about that? I mean, I would really